Hello, everyone. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about how we can use artificial intelligence for free, software such as ChatGPT and Bard, Google's Bard, and openAI's ChatGPT, to become our computer science tutors. In fact, these softwares could probably teach anything, but in this particular case, I want to talk about how we can ask ChatGPT to create a personalized course for us, a beginner's course for us in Python programming, and then we can use Jupyter Lite, which is a programming environment to run code and test the code. So what we need is we need to go to ChatGPT, which is located at chat.openai.com. You create an account, and if you like, you can use you can get their Plus membership, and just get more bandwidth with the Plus membership, basically. And it gives you options. So basically, what I've asked it to do is that I've described to it, what the task is. I'm saying you are an AI computer science tutor who's going to teach me all about Python programming. You will design a whole curriculum that covers the basics of Python programming to a beginner. I want you to give me an outline for this course. So these were my instructions to ChatGPT. So similar instructions can be used in Bard as well, and it will generate a similar result for us as well. In fact, if you want to just see how similar the result would be, and how capable Bard. So Bard is another option that we have by Google. So here on Bard, we go create a new conversation here, and we go ahead and ask exactly the same question in a new conversation, and it will go ahead and do that as well. It will go ahead and generate an outline of the course of all the basics that we need to know. It's very capable of generating code and then enabling us to run the code on Jupyter that I'll show you in a bit. So it's going to talk about what is Python, why should we learn Python. Then it's going to talk about the installation. So one of the things about Python is that you can obviously install it in your local environment, like your computer, basically, and run it locally. But for the purposes of this video, and as this is an introduction to Python video, all I ask is that we use the web interface, that we kind of skip over the installation process, because the installation process for a newbie can be pretty frustrating at times. You need to basically install a lot of different packages. If you're not very good with installation in general, with computers in general, this could be a little bit challenging, and it's not necessary. Later on, as you take more interest in programming in Python, then you can actually we can get into how to install it in other videos. So we're going to skip over all kinds of installations today to begin with. And then, it's going to tell us, it's going to show us how we can write our own first Python program. It's going to talk about variables and data types, operators, comments, etc. Then it's going to talk about week two. It's going to talk about control flow, which is if statements, else statements, and etc. etc. So as you can see, this is a very, very comprehensive list of topics. Week five, we're going to talk about object-oriented programming. Week six is going to be on modules and packages. Week seven is going to be on testing. And then we can actually, in week eight, we can do some projects. And then there are some special topics that it covers as well. And then there's some projects. So the projects could be build a simple web application, write a program to scrape data from a website, create program to analyze data, develop a machine learning model. All those things are absolutely possible. And for the assignments, they can generate quizzes for us, coding exercises for us, and also help us with coming up with a final project idea. So an entire class is actually designed on the fly, and same thing with ChatGPT. So we have the basics of programming, and you can see very similar topics. Got the variables and data types, operators, input, output, control structures, functions, and modules. Chapter five is going to week five is basically about data structures, et cetera, right? So very similar, maybe a little bit more comprehensive on this side. So that's another thing, if you're generating a course and you feel like, oh, I see these topics that's not covered over here, you can definitely ask the software and add to it, say, I want you to cover these topics as well. But the point is that it can create a personalized experience for us where we can interact with it, we can ask it questions, etc. So to kind of show you how that's going to go, we can actually ask it to kind of, so we're going to go over basically this module right here, module 2, which is Basics of Python Programming. So let's say I can ask it to create a lesson, with examples using your outline for the section. And then I basically copy paste the outline over here, that section, that part of it. So provide a few examples and say a code example. So it's going to be, of course, it's going to be code, but just to be clear about that. And uh, a couple of simple programs that demonstrate the ideas covered in this section. Now, think about it. All I need to do for other sections is just basically copy paste pretty much the same thing and just change the topic section to the next, that other module, the outline for that other module. And then basically I'm going to let it do its thing. So let's go here. So here it goes. It describes to you what a variable is, right? And as you can see here, it opens up this environment, this code snippet that you can then copy paste, and you can copy the code and take it to, so we're going to go now to this place here that's called Jupyter. To access Jupyter, you just simply go to jupyter.org with a Y, Jupyter with a Y. You go to try, you go to the web-based Jupyter lab. This is basically the lab environment in which it allows us to run Python code without having to actually install Python locally and having to deal with all the hassle. And trust me, there is some hassle that goes with that. Now, to people who are programmers and who are very good with computers, it's not much of a hassle because they do it day in and day out. But for a newbie, for someone new to programming environment, this is going to be a little bit of a hassle. So when we use this online interface, we don't have to worry about it. It's already there for us. So what we do, it's going to open up like an introductory page right here, and you see these cells, these little segments that we can create, and we can write our code and we can run. So for example, this little segment right here has generated this beautiful graph right here. So we're using NumPy and Matplotlib library in Python. As you can see in these first two lines, you don't have to worry about what these are right now. But just like, this is a few lines of code, right? Can create a beautiful scatter plot that represents a certain data that we actually randomly generated up here. But don't worry about the details. The point is that we can actually create a new notebook. So I've created a fresh notebook here. To do that, all you need to do, you go to File, you go to New, and then you click on Notebook, and it creates a new notebook for you, just like that. Now here, let's write our first program. So the first command we're going to learn in Python is going to be the print command. So I can say print, and then I do single quotation, and we write the most famous program that every programmer starts writing programming with. So that's called the hello world. And to run this code, once you have the cell selected, you go ahead and click, or basically tap, if you're on a tablet like I am, you tap on that play button here. And then this is the output. So what you see over here, that's the output of the cell. Now this generated an error because I highlighted it. So if I run it again and you pay attention to this section, you're going to see, oh, and then we put a 0 at the end here. So, and let's go ahead and, so it can print a string. This is called the string. Now, don't worry, I'm not here to teach you actually Python. I'm here to connect you with ChatGPT as your tutor and help ChatGPT teach you, and you teach yourself Python using ChatGPT as the tutor. So here's actually a good example. Here's an example where it's showing us a variable. So here I'm looking at this piece. We're going to bring it over to So this is what you're going to do. So you're going to go over to your Jupyter Notebook, right? And then you can copy paste it here. So I'm going to paste that over here, right? So what this represents, and it's going to explain to us in ChatGPT, this is the variable, x is a variable. And when we set equal to this value, now we're binding this variable to this value. Just like in algebra, we have variable and we have constants or values. So that variable can change, can take on different values. Right now, x is 5 and y is John, is string called John. This is with a double quotation. That's another way of creating a string. You can use single quotation like I did with hello world or double quotation. By the way, I can ask all these questions. So let's say I'm wondering about that specific thing. So I can come to ChatGPT. By the way, sometimes ChatGPT, if we move away from the window, it kind of abandons its response. So it's important to allow it to finish. I think the same goes with Bard. ChatGPT provides more text and a nicer read for you than Bard does at the moment. So I highly recommend ChatGPT. So it is generating a whole new set of text. It's not the same text as it was before, but it's going over exactly what the basic operations are. So as we're going over it, so it's showing us what the variables are. It's saying a variable is a container that holds information such as a number or a string. So in this case, this is the name equals John. So name is the variable and John is the value, and that's the binding. When we set it equal to each other, we're binding that variable name to the value John, or age is a variable and third is a value. We're doing the integer, so that's an integer variable in this case. Python, unlike many other languages like Java or C++, where we explicitly identify what type of variable, whether it's an integer or whether it's a string, in Python is implied what type of variable it is. By looking at the right-hand side, Python interpreter knows what's on the left-hand side, what type of variable is on the left-hand side. Now, talking about types, these are the main types in Python. These are the main data types in Python. Integers, which are whole numbers, floats, which are numbers with decimals, strings, which are sequences of characters. And as you can see here in this explanation, it's showing you it could be either with the double quotation or a single quotation. And booleans, which are true and false. And then there is an example code right here for this binding. So all you need to do is basically bring the code over, copy paste it. It says copy the code. So I can copy this code. Now, when I come over to Jupyter, I don't have to replace the previous code. The previous code can still run. So what is this code doing? This code that I've selected is going to assign value 5 to variable x. It's going to assign the string value John to variable y. And it's going to go ahead and print x and print y. Let's run it and see what happens. So when we run it, it's printing 5 and John. By the way, it's basically only running when you press the play button, the current cell. So it's not running the other cell. So just to be sure, let's just put something else here, like that 0, like we did before. That's okay. That 0 could be there. So if I want to run this guy, in fact, yeah, right? Did you see what happens? So when I'm running it, it's not showing me that 0. If I'm selecting it and running it, it's going to show me that 0. So it's only running basically the cell that you have selected. All right. But you have other options. So if you come here to run, over here from the menu, you can run, you have different options. Run the selected cells, you can actually select multiple cells, run all above selected cells, and also you have run all cells. And sometimes that takes a long time. So that's the whole point of having this environment where you can have the snippets of ideas and codes here, and then you can basically run it. So like if I want to have another idea that I'm learning about, and I want to run it here, which was this assignment of these floats and float example, the string example, and all that. Of course, if I run this code, nothing will happen, okay? So these are just binding assignments. I can print them if I want. So I can come here and say, like you saw earlier, I can say print, for example, the integer example, all right? So that's totally okay to do. And if I run it again, we do have to do a type conversion officially, and we can learn about that a little bit later, but it automatically converts it to a string. So it always the print can only print a string. So if your data type is not a string already, it will automatically convert it to a string. So if I want to print another variable here, the string example, I can do that too. I can print both. So all we're doing right now, we're learning is how to assign a value to a variable, what are the basic data types, and how to just output them. This is the output. So as simple as that. So instead of integer example, let's change it to whichever you want. Let's say the string one, so then we say string example. And then we run it again, easy peasy, and we have the string which value, the string example value is Python, so it's printing Python. Now, what is my point? What am I trying to teach you? I'm trying to teach you, here's a quick environment. There are other environments just like Jupyter as well, but this is the one that seems to work very well right now. Web-based, so we can come here and run our code here and have that experience. So when I'm interacting with the interpreter, I'm actually writing the code, I'm actually running the code and looking at the feedback. There is nothing that could be better than that. And the other thing is that our conversation with ChatGPT is a very dynamic conversation. So, for example, that question about, and of course, there is a lot more explanation and a lot more examples with like another, more complicated program here that you can read on. Again, how do you read it? Not this particular ChatGPT conversation necessarily easily. You can go on and create your own because it's basically a very good learning experience to create exactly with the steps that I'm showing you, to create your own outline for the course and let it like flesh it out for you, let it write the course for you, write the content for you, but do it one module at a time and put the content to test, right? And make sure you're understanding what's going on and have a dynamic conversation with ChatGPT. So, particularly about, say, quotation marks. So, for example, I can ask ChatGPT, so we can use both single quotation mark and double quotation. Of course, you can use the actual quotation mark, which is a lot easier. But since we're typing, I'm just making sure that it understood double quotation mark to represent the strings, right? Let's say that that's a question I had with string values. So I ask it, and then it can answer us. So it says yes, exactly. In Python, you can represent the string values using either single quotation marks or double quotation marks, and it's showing you both with words and with the actual sign. Both are equivalent, but it's important to be consistent within a project. And here's are some examples. All right, I think this is a good time to end the video here. I hope that I've convinced you that you can actually not just learn Python this way, you learn really any programming language at any level this way. Have a dynamic conversation, use the power of AI, use the power of dynamic web-based environments, development environments like Jupyter that allows us to write code and run code to basically become better programmers. If we're interested in learning how to program, the best way is actually all free of charge, available to us with the best AI software that is out there as our tutor, as our AI artificial intelligence tutor, and using software like Jupyter notebooks to run our ideas and our code and get feedback from the actual process of writing and running the code. Thank you very much for paying attention. Please, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. And if you have any comments or if you like to contact me, uh, feel free to do so. I also offer personalized one-to-one tutoring sessions in many subjects, including computer science, physics, mathematics, and chemistry. So I hope you have a wonderful one and see you next time.